various countries across continents and all that. Now, after that, when we came back, when people came back and retreated to their countries, there was need to have babies and to grow the economy. So those people are called baby boomers because they came on board. Industrialization began in the 1940s. Fordism, where we talked about large industries and assembly lines came up. And there was an era of renaissance, some rebirth, excitement and growth, spending money and all that. And there was an opportunity for people to just expand and create babies. So that generation is called the baby boomers. If you look at that generation and the way it worked and the way it was compensated, because this is a time we had what we call industrialization and assembly line. Things were being produced en masse. Things like entertainment industries, like the cinemas, were just coming up. A lot of employment at that time seemed to be line or assembly based. So you brought people at work, they would work on a line. It was extremely structured. And at that point, we were still grappling with issues to do with what is the legal age of work. Some countries would talk about 17, 16, 18. And if you remember in our theory, like the Hawthorne theories that we went through, those kind of experiments, a lot of things were happening around that time. And because of the lack of structure, then you will find that the unionism that had started coming up from the 1920s in the Philadelphia Treaty now kick in. And therefore, we have a generation that was born with structures, with pay, with systems, and with a lot of expectations. Then move to another generation. And a lot of baby boomers were born between 1960s, probably up to 70s, around that time. That's when we really felt their effect in the market. Then we move into the millennials. The millennials are people who come in at from the late 80s to somewhere in the 90s. Now, remember that the baby boomers, their parents and the generations around them at that point were traumatized by war. They were traumatized by lack. If you remember the cotton fields in the America, the women who were left behind had actually to go and not only work tirelessly in the cotton fields, they also had to do a lot of washing. And they were therefore kind of traumatized by lack of security. They needed to make money. So at that point, therefore, the baby boomers, as they came up as the children of those people, what would motivate them naturally, therefore, would be security, because they want some sense of security. They have seen it all. They want some sense of loyalty. We have seen how people became loyal in the war. You don't question anything. So next time you find baby boomers in your workplace looking like the security matters too much for them, they want to be loyal. That's what matters. That is a kind of history in a nutshell that we are coming from. And because of that, therefore, the kind of rewards that would motivate both baby boomers would be rewards that are around security. So you find things like retirement, what we call permanent and pensionable, became a very good indicator or motivator for them. We would call it from the cradle to the grave, that when you bring in that employee on board, you want to make sure that they have a good maternity cover, they have a good house. So we would even have benefits that we call the golden handcuffs. You want to hold them because they want to be with you until they retire. So they don't mind them. They don't mind you holding them with golden handcuffs and giving them long-term mortgages. Actually, mortgages were payable for 25 years. Car loans were payable for 10 years. And that was good enough for them. So that created loyalty from their end. And you make sure that by the time they are retiring, you have something that can secure. Remember, we are talking of security that can secure them even after they retire. So as HR practitioners, we have two types of schemes, retirement schemes. We have the DC scheme, the defined contribution, and we have the DB scheme, which is a defined benefit. Now, the defined benefit scheme is the one that held reign until about maybe 10, 15 years ago, and some institutions still run the defined benefit scheme. In a nutshell, a defined benefit scheme is a scheme where the employer takes the risk as they prepare for your retirement, and they make sure that they can continuously evaluate that scheme, and where there are deficits, they come in and put in money as the employer, they bear the risk, and they make sure that by the time you're retiring, they give you a retirement package whose formula was predetermined when you got that job. So the defined benefit scheme is disadvantageous to the employer because the employer bears the risk, but it's advantageous to the employee because the employee is assured that their last salary and or the last salary calculated, average of the last salary calculated in the last 3 years is what will give them a benefit as they retire. So they're assured. And basically that benefit, retirement benefit, tended to be 75% of the pay that the employee was earning. So if you look at where these people are coming from, their parents were coming from the Second World War. They were coming from an era of want. You know, when there is war, there's a lot of want financially. They required security and loyalty. Therefore, as they come on board and their children, the kind of benefits and compensation will be around that. Retirement plans that are secured, recognition that is secured, taking care of them from the cradle to the grave, giving them good medical schemes and all that. And that employee was ready to work with you for 35 years. Usually they never changed employees. And if they were risk averse as well. So they would probably change employees twice, but they would rather not. And if I can just bring it home very quickly, you will remember the government itself moved to the defined contribution scheme 3 years ago. And you'd find that a person who was so good as a civil servant would be very hesitant to move into the private sector because they would say, if I move, I will lose all my retirement benefits. So they would be tied to stay there. That was another golden handcuff. So now let's move on to the Gen Z. The millennials. The millennials come on board. They have seen what their parents are going through. They see their parents have to work so long. Sometimes their parents may not be so happy, but they're like, you know what?
Let me say
I can't
something
get
as
employment.
with those three communities. Bear with me.
Sorry, Dr. Sorry for that.
Okay, let's mute everyone. Thank you. So the millennials come and see their parents going through this, and you know, as baby boomers, even as they went through that, sometimes they would feel crushed, but they would feel imprisoned. They would say things at home like, you know what, I don't like this job, but I've got to do it. After all, I need a good, retirement benefit. I need this. So the millennials felt like, no. Something has to happen. I can't be going to work, feel like I'm a slave, just become become like a machine or a robot so that I can be able to secure this house that I bought for my family, secure this car or something like that. So now the millennials come in and the workplace becomes a little different because rather than being motivated by issues like security and loyalty, for them, they're saying, no, I want purpose, I want impact. And therefore, for them, if you're going to give them purpose and if you're going to give them impact, then they will want rewards that are around flexible benefits, that are around learning. I want to learn and I want to be given an opportunity to learn and be a different person. And I want to learn so that I can even move into another department. I want flexible benefits. You don't have to give me that house loan. And actually, I remember some years ago when we had some young people who were brought in and this institution, one of the multinationals said, we are a very good institution. We want you to take your house loans immediately after probation. And these young people are millennials. They said, no, we don't need house loans. We don't need that security. Take us to Toyota Kenya and give us those cars that you're talking about. And they went and got cars. And the baby boomers were like, these guys have lost purpose. Why would they want to go and buy cars instead of houses? But you know what? That is a flexibility that had to come in because you cannot force people to pick rewards that will not motivate them. So the millennials therefore come up with rewards that have flexible in nature. Let's get out the millennials and then let's go to Gen X. Now, the Gen X is the one that is between the boomers and the millennials. Sorry, I must have lost you on that. Now, the Gen X were the ones who came in just after the boomers. And these ones wanted some element of autonomy. They wanted some sort of balance. And they said, okay, I can work for those houses, I can work for those cars, but you know what? I am bright enough to know that I'm working for an organization that's making so much money, and I want to participate in profit sharing. But the way they understood profit sharing at that point, issues of bonuses started coming up. And if you remember when banks started paying bonuses, I worked in Standard Chartered Bank in the late 90s, and bonuses started coming up, and we were excited, like, wow, we can get a piece of the cake. It sounded exciting. And then we would say, but you know what? I don't want to be a personal assistant for a long time. I want to grow. Then we'd go and knock the doors of HR and say, you know what? I want to move to another department. Now the push for career growth comes in. And the push for career growth meant that at this time, you find that people come in and they start going for the MBAs. The MBA became a very hot cake. This is now in the 1999, 98, 99, around that time. And 5 years, give and take 5, 10 years, that's when the executive MBA comes in and everybody starts going to school because they want to grow their careers. They do not want to get into a situation where all they have is that paper that they brought in at work, like their fathers or mothers, and that is the paper that would tie them. So they started going to school, they started getting into bonuses, and they were motivated by some level of balance and some level of autonomy. So let me just put it into perspective so that I don't lose you. We have the baby boomers, then we have the Gen X, and then now we had the millennials. From the millennials, we now move into the Gen Zs. Now, when it comes to the Gen Zs, and I know we've had a long discussion around this, things get to change. For sure, we're not just looking at purpose and impact. I mean, these people have seen it all. Probably their grandfathers are the boomers. By now, if their grandfathers are alive, they can get to see this retirement benefit that my grandfather was working for. When I look at the rate of return and the time value of money, this money doesn't make sense. He worked for so long, for 35 or 40 years, but when I look at my grandfather, it's just not making sense. Now I look at my mother, now we are looking at Gen X, or my father, and my mother, yes, has earned a few bonuses here and there. I could see her going to school because she had to go and do an MBA when I was a young child. She had to go to college, run around, happy but not too happy. Now they can see the millennials who seem to be making impact and who seem to have a say, because the millennials are saying, you know what, I'd like to start working from home. I have a small baby. They work from home for 2 or 3 days in a week. And the Gen Zs are saying, I think this thing can now make sense. So what are the Gen Zs saying? For us, we are not just going to be motivated by purpose and impact. No, 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 no. We want to be part of it. So the inclusion comes in. We don't want to be told to wait for a week for feedback. We want instant feedback. And by the way, even when you talk about the millennials, who could be their elder siblings, sisters or brothers or cousins, who probably have 2 or 3 days flexi time if they have young children, for example, these ones are saying, we want to understand why you're giving them 2 days or 3 days and not the entire period. We want to understand why your maternity leave has got to be tied to the act and it's got to be 90 days. Why not just allow them to work from home? That's what they're talking about, transparency. And they're even saying, and by the way, what about wellness? Who told you that we are all healthy and we want to get into this rat race of going to work and coming back? We want someone to think about our wellness support. So now, when you look at those generations, when you look at what motivates them, when you look at what they want in rewards, it truly means, ladies and gentlemen, that as we sit in this forum today, as employers, we must rethink and rethink instantly. Why? It simply means that one, what we call the one size fits all that trend across industries no longer works. Actually, about just the other day, probably up to 10 years ago, when I was to go out and do a salary survey, we had salary surveys that we get from international bodies. PwC had a salary survey done in South Africa, an institution called REM Channel. We had some bodies like MASA, and they would carry out a salary survey across the world, then get into Africa, and then get into Kenya, and then tell you this is what you need to pay your people across the industry. This is a 75th percentile. This is a 50th percentile. So please find a way of matching yourself there. That is what we'd easily call a one size fits all. Then we'd go and say, what are you paying your CEOs? What are you paying your managers? What are you paying your clerks? Then we'd go again and look at what is being paid. So purchasing that book was a big deal. And that book was very expensive, I remember. It was a hard copy book. And we get the book and then go across the banking sector, look at what the banking sector can do, security sector, look at it at sector-wide, industry-based, and then come up with something. And if we negotiated with you and you didn't feel like you fitted into that package, you know what? You are free to leave. Another better person would pick that job. That's why we are saying today that can't work. That is what we called one size fits all. It's not working today. So as we sit in this webinar today, we are asking, what then must work for us? We are talking about offering customized, flexible packages. And for that, it means that we must really understand what each package would mean for each age group. The other day, when we were talking about how Gen Zs would fit at the workplace, we said the most important institution is the one that is able to fuse in all the generations and make sure that there's a level of inclusivity, there's a level of balance within all the generations, the multi-generational workforce. So having that diversity and that inclusivity and creating some level of harmony and balance is what we are called upon to look at today. So it's not really about paying more. We were motivated in our days by give me more money, give me more money. Today, it's really just about paying smarter. How can I pay my people smarter? And does paying smarter reduce me to making the financial decision only? And the answer is a big no. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that we must truly look beyond money and look at holistic rewards. As we look at holistic rewards, we are looking at what we call the total reward strategy, the totality of reward. The totality of reward is beyond pay. It goes even beyond benefits that are tangible. It looks at tangible and intangible benefits. It looks at the future of compensation as aligned to the day-to-day lives of our employees. Remember, the future is changing so fast. So what worked even yesterday or last year may not truly work today. So having that flexible mindset as a HR practitioner is so crucial for you because you're the heartbeat of the institution. You're the one who's expected to come on board and look at the market and look at your institution and come up with a package that suits everybody within the generations that you're working with. So money matters, yes, truly it does, but it's not everything. Why? As we're looking at different generations, people today want to feel seen. They want to feel that, yes, we can see you. Just the other day in the yesteryears, people who would be seen in institutions were the managers, probably the MD, and the other people would lack somewhere in the corners. If you looked at institutions that were giving their annual reports, you'd see the directors, you'd see the face of management, the others were somewhere. But today, everybody has got to be seen. Everybody has got to be supported, and everybody must feel valued. So much as we're saying that money is important, the rewards that we are looking to must be holistic. There must be rewards that bend around total reward strategy. Rewards that will make sure people they feel seen. Remember, I'm not saying people are seen. No, they feel seen. That means you must make sure that they actually feel that they are seen from their point of view, not your point of view. They must feel supported. Not that you feel like I'm supporting them. No. And they must feel valued. Don't just go to a place and say, these are our core values. We value people. No. You must run surveys and whatever it needs for you to do and quick check-ins to ask yourself, do my staff feel valued? Do they feel supported? Do they feel seen? And am I paying them well? What does that mean? It means that as we are looking at the total reward strategy and holistic rewards, one that is so crucial today. And I'm saying it's crucial because the truth of the matter, the younger generations are more in terms of numbers and quantum than the older generations. So if I do a quick run through of metrics in a typical institution, you'll find that the alphas, or let's say the Gen Zs and the millennials would form very easily, very, very easily, 70 to 80%. Now, the others then will form probably 15%. And if you're lucky to have a baby boomer, maybe 5%. And this reflects the kind of metrics we see in the population of the country today in Kenya and in the world, actually even in Africa. But if I look at Kenya, we're looking at 60 million people, and we can easily say that 35 to 40 million are the alphas and the millennials. So that's why we must spend a lot of time, a lot of energy to think about holistic rewards that must make people feel seen, feel supported, and feel valued. Therefore, as I move together with my presentation, you might think I am biased towards the Gen Zs, the alphas who are coming in, and the millennials. But it would be wrong for me not to lose sight of the fact that they are the majority. But I'm not losing sight of the fact that we would still need to take care of the older ones. That is, the Gen Xs and the baby boomers. So therefore, let's look at what would really be very important. One, since we are saying that the Gen Z and the millennials, and let me just concentrate on the Gen Zs and millennials for now, knowing that the alphas are coming on board, must feel valued, supported, and seen. It means, number one, very crucial, the benefits that you're offering them must be benefits that align with their mental health, benefits that align with flexible hours and wellness days. Mental health, flexible hours, and wellness days. Now, if you look at that, therefore, mental health is what seems to take precedence, because if I'm going to take care of your mental health, then there must be things that I do. I need to first ensure that I don't overwork you. I give you flexible hours. Accountability still remains. Accountability for results remains. But if I feel that for me, I'm a morning person and I'd like to come to work at 7, give my all until 10 or 12, I've already given what I should give, and probably have the rest of the day as flexible hours. Why not? If I can actually do that from home, why not? I want wellness days. Why do you want to push me from Monday to Monday? No, that's not what they want. So one of the things that is important to recognize is that their well-being is crucial. It is a priority for them. And remember, we said total reward strategy. When you're looking at what we call a total reward strategy, financial is just a part of it. Well-being becomes important. 2, these guys are not coming in because there are no jobs around. So you give them a job and you want them to stay in that position forever just because you thought you did them a favor to give them a job. No, these guys are flexible. They are sharp. They require learning programs. They are learning all the time. They could even be ahead of your institution in terms of learning. And so because of that, they would want to move very quickly. We may want to call them, a generation that is impatient, but why not? I mean, the world is also moving very fast. So we are happy to see them move together with the world. And therefore, they are quick and they're eager to learn. So you won't box them in an institution that it's not a learning institution. But for them to do that, one of the things we must do as the people who are guiding them is that then we must give them mentorship. And remember, when you're talking about mentorship, as a part of reward strategy, we're also looking at reverse mentorship. Reverse mentorship means that we are not talking down at them. We're also allowing them to teach us a number of things that they can grasp so easily without feeling embarrassed and without punishing them and without feeling prideful. So looking of learning programs, mentorship, which I'm emphasizing on reverse mentorship, and promotions. We're also not giving them promotions for the sake of promotions. They will earn them, but they will earn them if you're able to work around the well-being benefits and the career development programs that I'm talking about. Next, we are looking at personalized packs. And like what I was telling you, when we had those surveys that would come in and would look at them and see what industry is offering, what positions are being offered across the board, that cannot work today. Today, we are looking at packs that are not personalized. Do you know we had an institution with one of the big 4 consultancy firms about 5 years ago? And they said, okay, give us a typical HR manual in terms of compensation and benefits. We gave them, and they took their people through, the new employees. These were management trainees then. And they said, you know what? We don't want maternity leaves. We are not about to get children in the next 10 years. We don't want parental leave. So please, can you convert that leave into money or something that would make us happy? And we said, oh my, look at this. And it's possible that you could be giving people benefits that really do not matter to them. So as you're looking at packs, you have got to look at a way of personalizing packs based on your organization. What works well for the people you've brought on board? Do you know what that means? That HR manual that you have, you've dusted it, you've taken it somewhere in a cabinet, and when employees come, you say, sign here, that means you read that. That no longer works. On an ongoing basis, you must be looking at the demographics of your employees. If they are alphas that are joined, they are more than the millennials, they are more than the Gen Zs. Look at that, run a quick metrics of who they are, understand what they would want, and quickly develop packs that are personalized to them or to some different cohorts. They don't have to be personalized to individuals, but you can create different cohorts and have them. For example, some may be interested in tech support. Some would be interested in travel allowance. I mean, just traveling allowance in terms of allowing them time to travel, because a lot of people are motivated by travel now. Some might actually want the parental leave, others might not want it. So that's the third thing that we need to bear in mind. Another one, look at the culture of your institution, look at the purpose that you were created, and align that to the culture of the people you're bringing on board and the purpose of the people you're bringing on board. Remember, we're talking about homogeneity being thrown out of the window. So you can see that I brought about 15 alphas and 15 Gen Zs, and I'm going to handle them in this way. I'm sure by now you know, even within yourself as an individual, that you can see the culture is changing. You brought in these people and the culture is different. You know, the work culture. And does that culture align with your organizational culture? Is it a culture, for example, that brings out what we call meaningful work? Because that's a culture at work. Does it bring out, does it espouse meaningful work? Or do you want them to do something that is so repetitive that they will throw that job one day and just say, I can't come tomorrow? Is it a culture that nurtures inclusivity? Is it a culture that nurtures recognition? So look out at the demographics of your team, and then look at the culture and the purpose, and then align that with the organizational culture and purpose. And remember again, what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Today's HR and talent manager must be a person who thinks on their feet every day. And lastly, I can tell you for free, transparency is so crucial. When it comes to today's holistic rewards, transparency is number one. It's not like those days when you'd say, you know what, payroll is a very is emotive. We need to make sure that people don't know what others earn. So people walk around. You got into an interview. You were very excited. You needed a job. You negotiated. You thought 30K was a good amount. So they said, no, I think we can give you 60K. You're very happy. 2 months down the line, you learn another person who was with you got a job and is being paid 150K for whatever reason. Do you think that will motivate that person? You'll be motivated moving forward? No. So we are looking at transparency. And actually, if you look at the Constitution, openness of information is important. And that's why today, if you look at the public service pay structures, they're all gazetted. Can open information in the SRC salary structure. Everything is there. Transparency is one of the things that we must espouse when we're looking at holistic rewards and total rewards. And you're not going to have a Gen Z here and an alpha and even probably a millennial and start telling them, this is important. The other day, you've seen a young man who's been hacking systems, the one from Meru University. They will hack into your system and they will ask questions. They will ask for fairness. They will ask for clear pay policies. They will actually demand to know why you're paying so and so this, and they're not being paid that. So open salary ranges and transparency is another critical element of holistic rewards. So when we look at that, then what are we saying in terms of the future? We are saying we are now going to pay for accountability and skills. Now, I've talked to Gen Zs all the time when they're saying, we want big money, we want to be paid, we don't want to come in and get the 20K you're talking about. We say, no problem. We have no problem with that. But we are going to pay for results. We are not going to pay for job titles. So you have a title, fine, but you're going to pay for results. Out of the skills that you've had in your life, what results are you bringing to the table? Do you know what that means? That sooner than later, and I know it's happening in certain organizations, you find people who have lower titles earning more than people with higher titles. For example, if I've employed you to be a dealer in a bank or in a financial institution, and dealing means that, dealing these people who trade money overnight. They trade money so that they can make money for the institution. I'm not going to pay that dealer a static salary when I know that he's making so much for me. So if I get a young dealer, a 25-year-old who's very good at his job, and he deals and makes so much money for him, remember, these people are paid a percentage of the commissions. So the commissions become a percentage of the money that they make. So it is no wonder that 25-year-old is going to earn more than a branch manager. Why? Because we are paying for results. We are not just paying for skills and job titles. And this brings to mind what I hear a lot of people saying nowadays. I want to come to an organization, spend some time, ask me what you want me to do, put me to work, hold me to account, give me my scope my work from point A to point B. I deliver, you pay me. You don't really need to care whether I'm there on a day-to-day basis. I don't even want to be permanent and pensionable. But I know that if I go to organization A, organization B, organization, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm employing myself. I have freedom, I have flexibility, and more importantly, I'm able to define the kind of take home. I don't want to even call it a salary, the kind of money that I can make. That motivates them to work harder. That motivates them to have flexi time to do what they want, and they feel more fulfilled. Next, we are looking at a trend where there'll be real-time feedback on the results. So real-time means I walk into, let's say, a branch of a bank. Let me give that example, some front office services. I see as someone who's managing a queue very fast because they're very efficient. And quickly on the spot, I give what we call spot awards. Spot awards are very motivational. They do not have to wait for the end of the year. Remember, we are saying that our Gen Alphas, and Gen Zs, and Millennials are impatient. They want to get their due now, and they want to give you your due now. Therefore, the kind of bonuses and awards we are giving must reflect some element of real-timeness and feedback. Give me feedback now. If I'm not doing well, give me the feedback now. That's why we have regular check-ins on me. It's okay, I don't mind. When I do well, no need for this appraisal you've been talking about quarterly, half yearly, or sometimes annually. I want my money like yesterday. That's what we are calling real-time feedback, spot bonuses, and spot awards. Next, we are looking at an element of ownership and equity in the opportunities. Remember the example I've just given you, that I'm looking at coming to this organization. I'm a tech guru. What you want is for me to prepare programs for you. I'm a systems, I'm a software engineer. Why should I come and, get a salary of 300,000 for the next 2 or 3 years, prepare a program here, and probably get in. Sometimes I have so much time on my hands, but I have to come in at 8 o'clock. I leave at 5 o'clock, or I stay in the computer lab. No. Tell me the programs you want. Let me deliver for you. That will take about 6 weeks. After that, let me go to another organization and probably work concurrently on 3 organizations. What you want from me is results. But when I give you the results, remember now, you're not giving me a salary. I will be negotiating on a chunk of the benefit that you would earn by me giving you that product, that product that I'm giving you. So I'm calculating at the back of my mind, I'm giving you this product. How much value would it give your institution? And then, because these people are sharp, I say, if I look at the value that I will give your institution, I will want a percentage of that. That is what we are calling some sort of ownership. They want some sort of ownership. And when they're working for institutions that are, listed out there in the stock exchange, they actually want to own the institution. So if it is stock, they want to be given some stock. I know the beauty of giving things like shares, part of the shares of an organization, is that people feel they own and they will work extra hard so that they can be able to get the benefits. So an element of ownership and equity is another very, very important and critical future trend of the remuneration that we're talking about. Now, again, we cannot run away from AI. Really, when we look at AI and the tools that we are looking, we are saying that we must embrace AI and come up with pay tools that will be able to give real time and be able to quickly answer the kind of challenges we are facing around the different people we've employed. And say, I've employed 100 people, 10 are alphas, 50 are Gen Zs, 30 are millennials. These ones this is the way they have been brought up. These ones have been brought up in this setup. These have done a quick survey. These ones would value the following. Some want cars, some want shares, some want what. Can you please quickly, so you run a program, an AI program. What would I do for them? Now, AI programs are so important because they will give you the results instantly. So don't feel shy to go out there, see what there is in terms of AI-powered pay equity tools. Embrace them like yesterday. Go to the board with them through your the XCOM meetings, and sell this to your institutions. This is what we are expected to do as HR practitioners, to give the future trends of pay and compensation that makes sense to the organization and that makes sense to the people that we are employing. So what are we saying? We are saying that the best rewards aren't always cash rewards. They're the things that make people feel like they matter, and they're things that truly resonate with the heartbeat of the institutions. So when we say that, then what are our quick takeaways? Our quick takeaways today are our workforce is diverse. As diverse as it is, as I started off in the beginning to say, quickly do a quick look at how diverse it is, place in the metrics and the numbers, and ensure that the pay that you have, the pay systems and philosophies that you have reflect that diversity. Secondly, we must understand what motivates different generations. And for me, I look at beyond generations because yes, we can say Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, I'm motivated, but go beyond the generational thing, peek into the various people and look at the culture and the various individuals. Get straight into it and see what would build better rewards for different people, even within generations. You're also saying as a key takeaway, go beyond the salary. Friends, if salary is the motivation in your workplace today, we are getting it all wrong. It's good, it's important, but go beyond the salary. Offer holistic and personalized benefits. Remember, if I take you from the beginning, we said what motivates Gen Zs are things to do with well-being, flexibility, travel, time, and all that. So go beyond that because the future of compensation is beyond salary. It is about flexibility, it is about fairness, and it is about being human-centered, being centered to that individual. Checking with them all the time whether you make sense to them, whether the institution makes sense, whether they're still valued. So today's workforce is diverse, and therefore the pay that we give should reflect that. Let me give you an example. For example, we could have a global tech company that notices that its employees in different regions value different things. It's global. So we have employees in Kenya. Let's say we have employees in Europe, probably a country like Germany, and we have employees in India. Truly, this is global, but as a head of HR global, you will quickly realize that at that point, where there, and this is just an example, Kenyan staff at that point could be millennial and probably would prioritize education allowances for their children as part of the package. Because education in Kenya, looking at where we are as a country in terms of the education that is supported by government, there are many challenges right now. So everybody would want their children to get access to good private education. So what would matter today in Kenya for that millennial would be an education allowance. What that tells you is that as a head of HR and talent and all these, you must look beyond your institution. You must look at the larger ecosystem of the country. Even health today would be very, very important for Kenya because our health systems in the public service could be having a few challenges here and there. So you look at what matters in the larger ecosystem. Let's get to Europe and let's get to Germany. Same institution. You know what? They offer education, they offer all that almost free of charge. But what would matter for that employee then there would be extra vacation days. But let's get to India. India has challenges. And today, globally, for that employee in India, they would want health coverage for themselves and, if possible, for their parents. So those are the dynamics we are talking about. So then, what would the company do? That institution would have to create a flexible benefit program that would offer customized, pays for different people within the globe based on, and of course, you have to do a justification to your board. You don't just wake up and say, this is what I want to do. And justification means facts and figures. Facts and figures. HR always carry to the board facts and figures, not just saying, I think that won't work. Okay, so what are we saying? Pay shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. It should reflect who your people are and what they value, whether it's in Kenya, it's a global role, whatever role it is. Next, let's understand motivation across generations and build better rewards. And this is what I've been saying. For example, you have a hospital that has nurses across 3 generations. One of the hospitals, a good middle-sized institution, which is a hospital. For sure, the baby boomers will be looking for long service awards and solid pensions. They've seen it all, and they're saying, I want to retire, I want a good pension. The millennials would be asking for growth opportunities, they'd be asking for flexible schedules, they're in their mid-30s, early 30s, probably up to, just about 40s, around there. They want flexible schedules. The Gen Zs would care most about mental health. And within that institution, then you offer them mental health facilities that are free. And if you if you think that would stigmatize them if they'd work there, they'd be seen, organize with other institutions. Then they'd also want transparent pay. So what we're saying is that then that institution, that hospital would tailor its rewards, offer pension, learning stipends for the millennials who want to go to school, and monthly wellness credits for the Gen Zs. And let employees choose what motivates them. Sometimes you might think this is what motivates this and this. No. Just tell them this is what we have. Please, let's have a chat and get to see, have a quick check-in and see what would motivate them. So what we are saying, if you know what drives your people, you can build rewards that really work for them. But do you know what? For you to know what drives your people, you've got to feel the heartbeat of your people. For you to feel the heartbeat of your people, you cannot be patched up in that beautiful HR office, head of HR office, and looking down at people. You've got to feel them. You've got to get close to them. You've got to find systems and structures of feeling them all the time so that you give them something that motivates them. Again, we are looking at going beyond the salary. We are looking at offering what we were talking about, holistic and personal benefits. And I want to give an example of a marketing agency here in town. And let's say this marketing agency would like to add non-monetary perks because they have people, probably they can't pay so well in the market, yet they're having a lot of young people from the universities who are eager to work with them. And they're saying, how can we work with these people, still, attract them and retain them, and so that kind of trap them and make them feel like they really are a part of you. You can actually give them free therapy sessions, organize for free therapy sessions. So when they feel like they are so tired, they are bogged down by personal issues or probably even work issues, then go to those sessions. And then give them days like, you know what, no meetings on Friday, or even a day off, and say today or these 2 days, don't come to work, do your own stuff. Then give them small stipends for them to learn. If they are able to go to the net and get into very good online programs that would make them be better marketing agents, imagine just pay for them. Sometimes we are so mean, we say it's not in the policy. What policy are you talking about? And all you need is to pay them stipends and they will upgrade themselves and it will be for your own good. And then give them flexible start times. If they are parents, allow them time off with their children. If actually some of them could even be having multiple births and you still want them to come in and work for your 90, after 90 days they're out there and you're saying, no, you have to come at 9 and leave at 5. Imagine, be flexible. These guys will work with you, even when the salary is not that high. Because even though the salary budget may be tight for this kind of an institution, you will notice that if they feel seen and supported, I can tell you for free, retention will improve. So what we're saying is that sometimes the best rewards are not always cash rewards. They're just about improving the life and the well-being of your employees. Lastly, let's look at the future of compensation in totality as I bring this to a close. We're saying that the future of compensation is flexible, it is fair, and it is centered to the human being. I'm not saying it's centered to human resources. No. It is human-centered, that specific human being. Align it to them. First, look at the generations and then align it to the specific cohorts that you've brought on board. So that the pay is based on not just job titles, the skills that they bring on board. Remember the example I gave you of the dealer. It brings skills. Reflect that on their pay. Review pay regularly to avoid bias. If you actually feel that some people are working so hard and they're better than others, find a way of justifying that and review and pay them. We've had instances where we actually punish people who work so hard. You're out there, you work hard, and people are saying, she can't go and live, or he can't go and live, or he can't even take a trip, or he can't even travel. If he does, the institution might collapse, or we need him. And then you don't even pay him anything extra. What are you doing? Excuse me. No, we are saying you must look at that, review that kind of pay, and do not punish people for being great performers. Avoid bias. And let employees choose between higher salary or more time off. Sometimes they'll say, you know what? I'd rather cede a bit of my pay and come 2 or 3 times in a week. These are flexible schedules. Allow them that if that's what would happen. This means that the fundamentals of your pay policy must change, because the best companies of the future will treat compensation as part of culture and not just as cost. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for listening to me. Over to you.
Wow, wow, wow. That was so insightful. That was so insightful. And Daktari, we really appreciate. I can see applause there, claps. I'm sure you've been able to learn through this session. Any question from, I can't see any question from the chat section. Is there anyone in the question? Any clarification? I can see that you're so powerful, power-packed, very insightful, please share the recording, so that's okay. Very insightful. Anyone with a question? Ama mmeshika kabisa. You have no question.
I do have a question, Jay.
Yes.
So I work in a very good institution. So we have all the things you said. We have mental, we have, everything you said. But there's a lot of say change in the way the organization is going. And still the pay, there's retention, yes, because of the flexibility and all the other opportunities that you said, but the pay again is very low and the workload is a lot because of course we are changing a direction in strategy and all that. So it becomes like a tug of war between the employees and the organization because the employees are feeling demotivated and the organization is like pushing us to do more. And so I don't know how the conversation about pay is going, but if the organization is restructuring the pay and the reward systems, but the employees are still feeling demotivated or are already way demotivated, then what are the first critical steps leaders should take to restore the trust of the employees and maybe the engagement of the employees? And how do we then balance between the pay and the other benefits? Because the benefits are okay, but the pay then is a problem. And then I feel like the pay with the management and the other employees is such a huge gap, and maybe some employees really bring that out in different ways. So yeah, maybe you could just address that. Thank you.
Thank you. Please allow that I address them one by one as they come in.
Yes, yes.
That's really very, very insightful. Two things. Remember, I was talking about going beyond salary, not going behind salary. That means salary is important, even as we talk about other holistic and personalized benefits. Two things. If you want to gain trust, there has got to be transparency. And people need to know how the organization is performing. They need to look at what budget is set aside for salaries, where the other budgets go. That is usually through the financial statements. Remember, I also talked about people should be able to know what other people earn when I'm talking about transparency. Today, you're not going to tell me that this is what I earn, and then you think your managers earn so much, but nobody even wants to talk about it. And even when they earn so much, that conversation needs to be brought at the table. So if the institution is not doing well financially, I know, and I've seen it happen even the other day when we had COVID. I saw board calling people and saying, hey, we have this great hotel chain. We are not doing well. These are the kind of visitors who came in. This is the kind of revenue that we collected. If we say we retain all of you, it would mean that we close shop. But if we all took a 50% pay cut, then we'll all be able to survive for the next 6 months to 1 year. That's transparency. Where there's no transparency, people really don't even know how much the organization is making. Even when the organization is struggling, they will want to be paid more. But again, the organization may be doing very well, but because you want to be, could I just, for lack of a better word, say you want to be mean, you want to oppress people, all you want to do is to go back to the employment laws and act and say, I'm going to pay minimum wage. There's one or two things. It won't work. So one, transparency is important. It's important for people to get to know how the institution is performing, lay the facts bare, let them understand why they're being paid what they are being paid. And for sure, if they're giving you their best, then they need to be part of that. They need to take part in that revenue that you're making. And when it comes to what you say, disparity between management and non-management, that just needs to be broken down. One of the easiest things you can do is to seek an external person to do a quick survey, a survey that would be acceptable, by the institution, by the management and the team, and let them see that come up. Hopefully then that they should be able to use that, because for sure what you're going through is not sustainable. People are demotivated, will give you demotivated results. I do hope that I've been able to answer your question.
Yes,
Yes, you
did.
have. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then,
Hello.
yes, Abanas, you have a question? You can just raise your hand. Abanas,
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, or rather questions. I'm thinking about when you say we personalize these rewards, won't it bring an issue of discrimination? And another one, let's say we have two employees in the same category doing the same job, but one employee joined earlier than the other. When you pay them at the same rate, isn't the one who has been loyal to the company not being disadvantaged? And also, when you put them in the same category, what about this employee who works extra harder? And then there's this one just waits for the basic salary to get into the accounts. Thank you.
I'm not quite sure that I've understood what you've asked. You've asked them in quick succession, but let's also just look at the basics of a pay structure. Even as you enter, let's just talk about you getting into a pay structure. You really can't have a person who has more, because you're waiting a job and you're looking at the specifications of this individual, and they come on board and you want to place them at the structure. Definitely, the one who has more years of experience will be placed at a slightly better place than the one who has lower qualifications, just looking at the pay structure itself. But beyond the pay structure, we are saying that we are going to pay for results. So remember, we've been talking about paying for what you're bringing on board. So as they come on board, then you're asking, what is it that you're bringing that is different? So that as we look at having a pay structure, the pay structure of the future will be beyond a basic pay and your allowances. There is an element of productivity. That element of productivity is what is defined by all the things I've been talking about this evening. What is your accountability? That means you will have to define what accountability levels you expect of this person so that you're able to tell in black and white, this one has performed better. So in terms of their performance, I'll pay them better, even if the base pay would be okay, because the base pay would be informed by probably the general structure, the underlying structure. But beyond the base pay, then you want to make sure that the amount of pay that you put in productivity is the one that carries more weight than the base pay. Because if the base pay carries more weight and productivity is that one small thing you want to pay at the end of there, that's 10,000 shillings, what will motivate one against the other? They'll all just be the same. So there needs to be that differentiation beyond the base pay. You asked so many questions in quick succession. I may not be able to really, but I think I remember one. There's one you said that why would you have two different people earning two different structures? That's not what we mean. You've brought in a cohort at work. You let me call this team, let's say a team of accountants and maybe HR and a few people. You've brought them at work. First and foremost, you must understand their demographics. That's first and foremost. Understand their demographics. Then understand the culture that they have, their personal culture. you will quickly be able to tell that probably these Gen Alphas, as they come on board, are okay to work for you for 3 days. You allow them time off for 2 days. And then they can even compromise on the kind of pay and say, fine, give me your 50K and I'll work for 3 days. Another, maybe the older ones will say, we will work for the 80K, maybe at that level they have an 80K at the next level of pay, but give them, they would prefer to have longer maternity leave. Or they prefer to have some travel days over and above their leave days. So it is you to look at the kind of people you've brought on board and see where flexibility is and create flexibility within the structures of pay. Remember, total reward is beyond cash money. A total reward strategy goes beyond cash. It goes towards the diversity that you need to have within the structure of pay. The reason why pay is included is because if I decide to give you 2 days off for you to go away, when you calculate those 2 days in terms of the man hours lost, it still becomes money that you have lost because you have given them 2 or 3 days off. So when you calculate the actual pay you give those people, you take the 2 days off and, calculate in terms of the monetary worth that they would have earned, you will find that total rewards brings a larger, the institution has to pay much more for that individual. So total rewards does not just mean the financial in terms of the money that goes to the bank. Actually, in total rewards, you're talking about even the medical cover, the premium that you pay for an employee. It is part of total rewards. So that ideally, when a pay is 100%, until probably 5 years ago, a total reward would mean that the actual cost of having that employee on board would be about 130% over and above, 30% beyond the 100% pay. That is what we want to turn around and make sure that we work with it in a diverse workforce and use that to motivate and bring our people on board. Thank you.
Dr. There's another question. We have Peter asking, what are the key pillars of to watch or adhere to when building a reward strategy for the gig economy employment type?
For the gig economy, actually, if you run down what I've been saying, there are key things really, Peter. And I think I don't think I have a presentation that would be good for me to share, but basically, you're looking at why do you want to compensate? Why do you need to rethink the compensation of today beyond the compensation of yesterday? So we are comparing what pay policies we had yesterday and what we'd work today, and that means you need to do a gap analysis. What generations are at your workplace? What motivates different generations? Because you're looking at the gig economy. Then you're looking at where does money come in and where are the motivations beyond money? So what can you give when it comes to pay? Remember, we're still talking about decent work. Because I heard what the First Lady asked, which was very important, that you cannot underpay people in the name of saying that, we want to give you flexi time. No, we are still tied to what we call decent work. And decent work does not mean you just pay the minimum wage. It doesn't even mean you pay the living wage, that you just go to Kenya Bureau of Statistics, you look at what a basket costs, and then you cost that and say that we are giving a living wage. You still have to give a good wage that is comparable generally to where your industry is. But beyond that, you must look at holistic rewards that will cause a feature of compensation for your institution. So I've been running through all that and just pick what I've been picking, and you'll be able to see the key points, especially for the gig economy. Because for the gig economy, we are looking at the alphas, we are looking at the Gen Zs, and we're looking at the millennials. And if you run through what I was telling you, you will quickly be able to see that the policies that make them really shine out are not the policies of yesteryears or the policies that we are using for the Gen Alpha, the baby boomers and the Gen Xs. All right,
Yes.
Thank you. Over to you.
Yes, I think we have a last question from David, who is asking, kindly, Daktari, reflect this compensation and reward within the public sector lane perspective in the ESC region and beyond, highlighting prevailing practice as best practices and areas of improvement, if any.
Excellent. I love that. I love that because this is absolutely important, because I like that first you've talked about the public service in Kenya. I like that you've talked about the ESC region because of the integration. So in terms of integration, of course, this means that we are integrating the labor laws across the areas of ESC, so that before we even talk about the flexible kind of working hours, we integrate the laws. And I think the process should have actually been concluded by now. But when I look at the workforce that should be diverse, the public service needs to move faster because it is the greatest employer. And sometimes we found that when the public service moves, some of the people in the private sector who are a bit, uncomfortable, find that they have to move because the public service is the largest employer. And yes, if you look at certain departments, like the immigration, you will see a reflection of flexi time. You'll see a reflection of people working in 24. I think we are moving towards 24 hours for the immigration. We are looking at that. It may take time, but it's something that is moving. And I totally agree with you that this must be reflected yesterday, not today. And let me tell you why. Because if you look at the kind of people who are joining and who should join the public service, whether we like it or not, these will have to be millennials, because they're the ones who will be left standing, and the Gen Zs, they're the ones who will be left standing. The others will have retired. Actually, in the public service today, we have a challenge of succession planning, because a lot of people are now retiring. So we are left with the older millennials, and I'm sure with the older millennials and the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs, this will have to take root. You cannot run away from a change or an idea whose time has come. So I totally agree with you. This is important and it must be embraced. And thank you for that.
Then we have Nerea asking, does categorizing the benefits allude ageism? If yes, how do you handle this?
Sorry, ageism in terms of
maybe she's asking in terms of does the benefits allude to age? If yes, how do you handle this?
Yes. If you recall at the beginning, I talked about how we came across different generations. And I said, what informs a generation is the environment that the generation operates under. You recall that I started talking about who we call the baby boomers. These are the children who were born immediately after the Second World War. And I brought you slowly to the issues of the trauma they had to go through, and therefore the need for security and the need for loyalty. Please allow me not to repeat the entire, the first part of it, because I hope that this is recorded. But allow me to just give highlights of what I said. And therefore I said, because of the need of security, they saw what their parents went through. They saw a lot of their people die in war. Remember, we were left with more women than men in these countries where there was war. And the women became the role models. The women started going out to fight to bring the bread to the table. And the men started liking and admiring their mothers. And therefore, you'd find that there was some sort of imbalance, And because of the need of security and the need for loyalty, then the kind of rewards that came on board are rewards that reflect that. Rewards that came up with retirement, long service, job security, recognition. Then I moved back to the Gen Xs, and I said these are likely to be the children of the generation, the baby boomers. And I said they saw their parents going through this kind of thing, and they're like, no, that loyalty is too much. I need some element of autonomy. I need some balance in my life. I need some harmony. And therefore, I went through what we were calling the career growth and the bonuses. Then I went to the millennials, and I went to, I went to the Gen Zs, and I took you through that. So yes, when you generally look at a demographic, you're actually able to tell generally the kind of perks and benefits that would be in their reward strategy. However, and I like what you've asked, you will not miss an outlier. Outliers are always there. And that's why I said, even as you bring them on board, check in on them, have a way of understanding them so that you're able to tell, because there could be that, Gen Z who might say, I want a house loan for whatever reason. So you can't say that you'll deny them. If it's part of the policy, give it to them. So yes, look at the general demographics and how they work and what it is, but personalize them to your institution by taking time off and understanding who they are and getting to see how flexible you can within what your organization can offer. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much for that response. Now, what governance safeguards or frameworks ensures fairness and transparency in pay and rewards in the situation where the staff feel compensation doesn't match the effort and contribution?
So what governance frameworks would ensure flexibility and you say fairness? Basically, you look at things like looking at a job and first ensuring that the jobs are scoped well enough for the jobs to be evaluated, for you to tell that these are the jobs that have been evaluated. And in terms of base pay, the base pay of this job falls under this. So you evaluate the jobs, you grade the jobs, and you allow them a base pay. That time you haven't put in individuals in it. What you've done is to look at the organization, is to look at the organizational structure, is to come up with the nomenclature for the jobs, is to now have job description for each and every job, is to have that job description have a job specification, is to have that signed off by team leaders. And if there's union, some representation from union, not in the name of union, but in the name of representation from union. And that becomes the jobs as they are in that institution. You haven't talked about people, you haven't brought people on board, but you're saying in this institution, these are the jobs, this is how they will be. Then evaluate those jobs and have them graded. Now, once you grade those jobs, you're going to bring people on board. You're bringing them on the understanding that this would be their base pay. And of course, imagining the institution will do well. It knows how much it's paying its people. It knows how much it's making and how much it would pay for those jobs. When people come on board, you will first ensure that every job holder would have the base pay. But remember, we are now saying beyond the base pay, because the base pay, you can't get out of it. People must have that base because they have signed their letters. That's what they have. If you don't want them to get the base pay, then you go through the other structures that we have of poor performance management. Of course, you go through the law to ensure that you don't just give someone salary, summary dismissal for whatever reason. Now, beyond that base pay is where the element of productivity comes in. And as you're bringing people even for the base pay, you're bringing people to pick these positions as they are. Some people could have maybe 4 or 5 years experience, or there's that thing we do in HR where you can place them 1 or 2 notches. Those notches are good, but moving forward, they will not be as significant, and that base pay will not be as significant as what you are holding to account. People are coming on board in terms of productivity. So as they come on board and you want them to be productive, then you're looking at beyond the pay. And therefore, when we look at beyond the pay, we look at what I was saying. You want to craft a holistic reward system that is looking at issues like well-being. You have now looked at the people who have come on board. You have structured them into various generations. You want to look at them beyond stereotyping them as a millennial or as a Gen Z. That means you want to listen to their heartbeat and understand, beyond you being a Gen Z, what else makes you tick? Then I give you well-being benefits. Probably I give you career benefit, career development, learning opportunities and paying for your learning programs. I give you personalized perks because what matters for you doesn't matter for the other person, or for this cohort of people. Let me give you an example. When we had the Auditor General, Mr. Oko, the one who left, he came in from African Development Bank. He went to the office of the Auditor General, and then he called us and said, you know what, CEO then, and he says, and the chair, I understand that we have this base pay in government. I understand these jobs and I have no problem with them. But I have employed about 200 auditors that must work and I need to motivate them. and these guys are fast and they are raring to go. Would you allow that I find other ways of giving them a pay that is beyond the base pay that SRC has given? Then we ask them, what do you have in mind? Is it because these are tech people? They're very good in tech. First, I want to give them support by allowing them to have laptops. Beyond the laptops, I want them to go for free training. Beyond the free training, I want them to be going for conferences and seminars. We allowed it. Do you know that cohort? And that was about, would be about 6 years ago, actually, maybe 5, 6 years ago. That cohort that was employed, and there were many, are the ones that are supporting the current Auditor General, going all over the country to do so much with high motivation. Do I need to say more? No. Bwana Ouko understood what made those people tick, and he allowed it, and see where they are. So that's the kind of thing we are looking at. And I do hope that I've made myself clear. And thank you for that. And I'll be going in for another meeting, if you allow, that we could probably be bringing this to a close on my part, please. And thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that presentation. And lucky enough, you are handling the last question from our audience tonight. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank you again for even taking your time to be able to take us through this great topic. So I'll hand over the program to Skylar, and who will finalize for us. Thank you.
All right.